Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 72 of The Ollie Show with your host, Chandler, and
the Dave Picardi.
We are the dynamic duo who always brings you the most exciting and actionable show in the history of the world. It's probably the best thing since individually wrapped cheese slices. So I hope you're excited for today's episode because we got a special guest. He's going to talk to us about hard-hitting topics relating to the independent contractor versus employee issue we always see in our businesses. It's Mike Jesowshek. He's a CPA and he's with JETRO and Associates. Let's have you introduce yourself, Mike. And I didn't butcher his name, so that's exciting.
No, that was perfect. Thanks for having me, guys.
Exciting episode. This is one of my favorite topics.
Good. Not too many people can say they enjoy talking about accounting and taxes. So that's good to hear.
I know, fun. I'm a little odd like that.
So fun. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, definitely. So I come from kind of the online marketing space. Started a firm about 5 years ago. And when we first started the firm, our main goal was to keep it cloud-based. And by cloud-based, basically just means that our employees, we are located all across the country as well as our clients. So that's our goal. Our cloud-based is to take and utilize cloud-based technology to provide a better service to our clients. So we kind of take the basis of a traditional accounting firm and move it to more modern, where we're able to better serve our clients in an easier and more simple method. So we've been open for about 5 years now. And within the past 2 years, we started to transition specifically to the fitness industry. So most of our focus on growth and scaling has been fitness studios, boutique fitness studios, and gyms. And that's really been kind of where our focus has been with our firm now.
Excellent.
Perfect. I love it.
So how did you, if you started out with more the marketing side, how did you end up, do you do that at all anymore, or do you stop doing that for accounting?
Yeah, so we were kind of in a unique industry on the accounting or on the online marketing side. We were in the affiliate marketing industry, and when we first started out the firm, what we realized the reason we started the firm was because we saw that there was a need for accountants that really understood kind of that unique industry in the online marketing space. So that's when we first started out. When we started to grow our firm, we, for some odd reason, started to gain a lot of clients in the fitness industry. And we just really enjoyed working with their clients and seeing the passion that they had for kind of their clients, and said, you know what, why don't we try to focus our entire firm and growth on the fitness space? So
excellent.
Yeah, that's awesome. You kind of figured out where you guys wanted to be and where your game was going to head, and then you tackled it head on.
And we see that a lot is niching down into what you're really good at and focusing on just that gives you that springboard to be successful and actually deliver that thing to your clients so that, it makes a difference in their business.
Yeah, and that was our hardest part, is that we were being a cloud-based firm. We service clients all across the country, but it's impossible to market to every small business in the country. So, we need to niche down. It helps us provide a better service to our clients instead of just being a generalized accounting firm. It allows us to really kind of niche down and provide a specialized service for clients. And we have a better idea of what their pain points are instead of trying to find pain points of 40 different industries.
Yeah, that's huge. And you find that if you try to service everybody, you essentially service nobody. But if you figure out that specified niche that you can pursue and hit, that's when you're going to be really good. And that's when you can eventually spread out. But you always have to start somewhere where you're highly niche. So that way you can build and grow and build something sustainable in that environment. Then you can branch out if you need to.
Yeah. And we tried kind of the opposite approach, and it led to our growth being strictly referral type based, and didn't allow us to more manage our growth. So,
yeah, which makes sense.
Very cool.
So let's get into it. Talk to us a little bit. So we're going to go over employees versus independent contractors today. So let's talk a little bit about what like the pros are for an independent contractor inside your business, especially with all the gyms we have watching.
Well, and I think as we talk about this, it's important that in the gym business, in the gym kind of realm, it's a huge confusing point because hopefully this sets it up right for you. I just know it is one of my favorite topics because it kind of is the foundation of your entire business. How the employees that are interacting with your business, how do you compensate them? If you I know it's appealing for a business owner to compensate them as an independent contractor. But like my accountant said to me once, and also one of my business mentors, what you're trying to do there is pass on your corporate and business responsibility to your employees. That's why it's so appealing, because it saves you money, versus being an employee and taking on all the responsibility. So I think it's a huge confusing topic. And I think this is probably one of the best webinars to ever hit the gym business right here, because we're going to straighten it out.
Yeah, and I think that's, what the hardest part about is the IRS causes so much confusion. So when the IRS says, what is considered an employee versus an independent contractor, they essentially say an employee, and I'm just going to read directly from their site. You should consider them an employee if you can control what will be done and how it will be done. So again, it's control what will be done and how it will be done. So that doesn't really tell us a whole lot. The IRS is just saying basically it comes down to a control. So what we typically do with our clients is say, let's to answer some questions, or let's present some questions that represent control, that we think would define what control is, and then determine, based on the answers to those questions, if we should classify as an independent contractor or employee. And kind of as you mentioned, for money reasons, independent contractor is going to be the most desired option for a business owner.
It's appealing to the owner.
Right, because you don't have to pay the employee or employer portion of payroll taxes, essentially.
Yeah, which tends to be
we're in
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. So 10% in Massachusetts, and then workman's comp on top of that in Mass. And so it's a big chunk of revenue.
And sometimes,
as an owner, it's tough, because then you have to take on those costs, and you have to decide, can I afford to not only pay the employee, but double what I'm paying them in terms of everything else.
Yeah, and sometimes even the worker will prefer to be classified as an independent contractor for the purpose of, if they're working for multiple studios or multiple gyms, it allows them to take expenses and take that income and have expenses offset it. So sometimes it's kind of a win-win for both, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are an independent contractor. So some kind of questions that we would say, is that control present? Is we would say, one main question is, who designs the workout program? So if you're a trainer that's coming in, do you come in with your own workout program, or is the studio saying, here's the workout program that you're going to be using to then train essentially the client?
So I deliver, I come in, I'm hired to teach a class for $20 an hour, and that's all I do. But that class is not my class, that's the business's class. And so I didn't design anything. I didn't get the clients. I didn't organize the structure of everything. I just showed up to do my job. What would that be classified as?
Typically, that's telling me employee all the way. And other things that do, are you using the are you bringing your own equipment in, or are you using the studio's equipment? If you're using the studio's equipment, that's kind of tending towards the employee side. Right. Some other ones is, do you set your own rate, or does the studio set your rate? So if you're a personal trainer, do you set your rate of, say, $80 per hour, and then you give the studio a cut? Or does the studio say, all of our personal training is $60 an hour, no matter which trainer you work with? Those are some kind of questions that more geared towards control, about who has control of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's, do you tell them what to do, and do you organize the way they're going to do it, or do they come in with all the tools and provide the service that you need them to provide in their own way? And when you look at it both of those ways, it's okay, now I have an employee, or now I have a contractor. I think a lot of gyms really get in a gray area, though. They think that they can come in and just hire the contractor, and nothing's ever going to go wrong. Do you ever see problems arise several years down the road, or problems arise during audits and anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times what's causing that problem to arise is you have a disgruntled trainer that is no longer working for you. So let's say, I work for a gym for 6 months, decide to cut loose, go somewhere else. They send me a 1099 at the end of the year. It says, hey, we didn't take any taxes out for you. That's kind of your responsibility now. That trainer that's no longer at that gym might be confused on how that might have worked, and assumed that taxes were being paid on their behalf. And now they come back, they can report them to, say, state or IRS or whatever it might be. And then the state or IRS are looking into it. And that's where a good portion of the audits come in is through disgruntled employees or disgruntled workers that are coming back and saying, hey, I everything I did screamed employee, but they paid me as an independent contractor. Now I'm stuck holding the bag.
Right. Because that's a way for them to get a reduced tax rate or not pay it, is get it put back on the employer saying they didn't pay my taxes. They were supposed to. And
once you have, one case open up like that, then the IRS or state, you're kind of competing with both of those taxing agencies, depending who's going to find out first. But once you find out one, they often talk to the other, and they're going to dig into every worker you have. So if you have 10 trainers over 8 years, they might look back at you and go back the full 8 years and say, okay, you did have some independent contractors in there, but let's say 75% of them should have been classified as employees. Now you're stuck with paying back taxes, interest, penalties, fines,
which is a lot.
Again, just on the state and it can be on the federal level. So it can add up. I will say that, when we have these conversations with clients, we say, don't be scared to pay someone as an independent contractor. Because we say usually, yes, most of the questions kind of gear towards an employee. But if you can answer these questions that make it seem or make it appear that they're more of an independent contractor, don't be afraid to do that. But just be able to back it up and know that you're not just going to fly under the radar. Eventually, it will probably come up at some point.
Now, that makes sense. Do you back it up with contracts?
You can, but the IRS is going to say, so, and we kind of make that point. A lot of times the problem is the worker will come in and say, I want to be an independent contractor. And so as the employer, you're saying, hey, great, let's set you up as an independent contractor. Let's have a contract in place. It helps, but it's not the determining factor. It's kind of a pitfall that we see clients come into is if the worker requests it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are an independent contractor. So you still have to kind of look through those questions, work with your accountant and say, what should we use as those determining factors for control? We just say, pick 5 questions. If you answer yes to the majority of them, classify as an employee. If you answer no to the majority of them, classify as an independent contractor. And not necessarily base it off of what the actual worker requests or wants out of it.
Yeah. So say you have someone who essentially hires a contractor on board and they come to you to kind of decide whether or not this person should be a contractor or an employee. Do you walk them through these questions, or do you have a whole process to kind of figure this out for them and to identify specifically where they should align? Because we see a lot of gyms who have someone come in and they talk and they're like, oh, well, the workout's on the board, it's already done. But then we have other gyms who the coaches pool together and create the workouts themselves. And then we have other facilities where the coaches pool together and make their own hours based off of who can do schedules and stuff like that. So how would you work in those kind of situations?
Yeah. So basically we would just talk to the client and say, learn about their situation, usually by just talking to a client, having them explain their relationship with the worker. It's usually comes out fairly obvious, or it leans one way or the other. And then from there, we would have specific questions. And, some of the main ones are kind of, as you mentioned there, who establishes the workout? Who does the client pay? Who's setting the class times? Those are all main questions that we can pick out. And if majority of them lean towards independent contractor, we say, go ahead, pay as independent contractor, because we have documentation here that proves the control tests that we took and why we think it should be this way. Also do a contract. The contract would never hurt if you do go down the independent contractor route, have a contract in place that supports that. But if most of these questions that you're asking to lead towards, it's pretty much the studio that's controlling a lot of the answers to these questions, we say then it's not worth the risk taking that chance that you're either going to fly under the radar or taking that chance that, you think that you might be right. The IRS also does have a form that you can fill out, explain the relationship with the worker, and they'll come back and tell you if it's an independent contractor or employee. I don't always advise a client to do something like that, because you're just kind of opening up the situation into your business. But if you're really like, wow, we're right down the line and we could think it could go either way, that's an option.
So one of the things that in my business that we've done, I guess, forever is, an independent contractor is somebody that is delivering their own product in our gym. So if it's a personal trainer, they have nothing to do with my program, my anything. The contracts we always do with them it's more like a space rental agreement as an independent contractor, right? So they can, they collect their own money, they do their own things, they pay the house, they pay the business, whatever the arrangement is. It could be a percentage or it could be a flat fee. But that would be, we don't do it with personal trainers, but maybe it was a weightlifting club or the acupuncturist, or the massage therapist. A big thing for us is they have a key to the place. They do whatever they want. That's the arrangement, independent contractor.
Yeah.
If somebody shows up, they have to deliver my product, my service, my classes, follow my schedule, employee.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that a lot of times, it's not that you have to answer your question. Your answer to the questions don't have to be 100% one way or the other. So you could have a situation that you just described there, where they come in, they do their own thing, they set their own time, they bring their own clients, they use their own equipment, but then you just set, let's say, the price, or you
Right.
collect the funds and then you just pay out the contractor. That's something that I would say, yeah, let's still classify as an independent contractor, even though one of the questions you might have answered employee. But yeah, so that's a great example, is that if it's a lot of times, if it's something that you don't focus on, you're just bringing them in for extra help or something of that sort. Typically that's going to be an independent contractor.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think a lot of gyms kind of just jump into whatever everybody else is doing, but they don't. I think the biggest thing someone should do is talk to a professional who's a CPA
Yes.
or one of you guys and really talk through what they're specifically doing in their situation, rather than just copying everybody, so they can understand what they're doing, the implications behind what they're doing, and understand that it's not just black and white. It's not employee or contractor. It's, well, you're doing a combination and we need a professional recommendation on which way you should go.
Yeah, I think that's, when it comes to gyms, any business, typically, whenever they decide independent contractor or employee, they'll say, well, the guy down the street told me to do it this way, or I'm following my buddy who does it this way. And, the biggest thing we say is they might not answer those questions the same way that you are. So it's not necessarily something that's going to be a line that's the same across an entire industry. It can change from studio to studio. It can change even if you have two studio locations. It can change from location to location, depending on the type of relationship that you have with your workers. So, yeah, I think that's a great thing, is that don't necessarily trust or talk to your friend and assume, okay, they're doing it right, so we're good. They might not have just been caught yet, or they might answer the questions differently than you. So that's a key thing to think about.
So I think this brings up a good point about cost of doing business, right? Which is, I always like to explain away, like everybody always tries to not pay the cost of doing business as much as possible in their business. So you see it as an accountant where it's like, well, I don't want to pay that. You might be like, well, you have to pay it because it's just part of business. So I think one of the main things that happens in small business, which turns out to be most of the gym industry, is because there's a cost. Like if I have a question about legal stuff, I have to pay a lawyer to get the answer. And if I have a question about accounting, it costs money to get the question answered correctly as it pertains to my business. And a lot of the time, small business owners, one, they usually can't afford it. They don't allot the money to it. So it's a lot of money to pay someone to give them the correct answer for their business. So they ask everybody. So now they're on forums or asking friends. So somebody else has paid for information that then everybody else is running around trying to get for free and then just apply it to their business. And I think I think this might even set up kind of your service a little bit, where you have a service where they pay a monthly fee and they get the consulting side of it as well. Where normally, like, I'm paying $150 an hour to get the right answers.
Yeah. And I think, even if you go back to that, it's what a typical client or small business owner needs to understand. It's also the cost of not paying to get that advice up front is going to be much more expensive down the road. And I'll give you the example of just if you think, or you go to the idea that independent contractor is, your workers should be independent contractors. You do that for 8 years based off an advice you got off of a forum post. And now 8 years later, they come back and say, no, actually, it's all employees. Well, now you're going back and paying all those interest and penalties of that error that you made when you could have just spent, a little bit of money up front, making sure it was right and preparing yourself, down the road. There's been scenarios where businesses go out of business because of an error like that they make, depending on how long it's been, how much money has been paid that way. So yeah.
Well, a math thing on that is 8 years. Even if you weren't a big business, if you had $100,000 a year in payroll, the business cost on that's at least, depending on where you're at, but 10 grand. So 10 times 8, 80 grand plus penalties. These people are they could be paying 150 plus thousand. Yeah. And small businesses don't have it.
Those are the kinds of things that just crush the business and then they fall apart.
Right.
And it's always solvable by putting a couple $100 in to talk to a professional, talk to a CPA or talk to someone like you guys. And how do you guys work into talking with businesses, and what does your packaging and your systems look like?
Yeah, so we charge basically flat monthly fees for all of our services. So you kind of pick what level of service you want, whether it's bookkeeping, taxes, payroll, or just a portion of that. And then as part of our service, we provide obviously the core service, so tax returns, tax planning, bookkeeping, regular reconciliation, payroll, handling the taxes, the tax filing for that. But then again, we're there as a sounding board. So you have questions, you have issues that arise, you need to add an employee, you need, whatever your question might be, we come in, and because we're just a flat monthly fee, that's all worked in there. So I think that you'll see that it's a lot easier to be able to confront your tax accountant or your accountant at any point because you're not paying an hourly fee. I'm the same way with our lawyer. Anytime I have a law question, it takes a little bit for me to pick up the phone and call him because I know as soon as that phone answers, it's $250 an hour.
That's right.
But if I could get a monthly fee with him, let's say X amount of dollars per month, I can call him unlimited amount of times. That's a little different. And not saying that, we could have a client call us unlimited amount of times per month, but we've never had an issue like that. We've never had a client that says, hey, you've been contacting us too much. We've never really had an issue like that. So they just feel more comfortable reaching out.
I can't tell you how important what you do is for your clients, because it's something that I don't do anything without talking to my accountant and my lawyer. It's like on everything, and it can get expensive. I've actually figured out ways to have it not be as expensive, but over the years, the amount of money we spent, because I'm like an idea guy, and I'm always trying to do different things, and so I ask my attorney first, and then the accountant second. So I'll pay up front all the time, just so that I don't go too far with my idea and then run into trouble with it. Yeah,
I realize it ain't going to work or something like that. And I think that's too. Another thing is that when it comes to tax and legal issues, everyone is so scared about doing it right because it's so complex. Having that sounding board says, hey, they said this is how to do it. That's how we're going to do it. And we're confident that we know it's correct. That's why we lean back on lawyers for, tax saving strategies, things like that. We'll lean on them and say, hey, what's your point of view on this? We then can take that and we'll be confident because we have an expert opinion on it. We feel confident. We don't have to stress about that as an owner, small business owner. We don't have to stress about, are my taxes being done correctly? Am I doing it right? Am my bookkeeping done right? That's all just taken care of from someone that, I can trust doing that.
Yeah, that's huge. And especially in gyms, you think about the way they operate. Their clients come in to work with a professional and they pay hundreds of dollars in the micro gym world to work with that professional because the clients don't know what they're doing by themselves. But then the gym owners themselves, they get in the same mindset. They say, oh, I'll just ask on this giant forum and I'll get 100 opinions that don't have anything to do with accounting or law. versus because they have that fear and that pain point that if they call the lawyer or the accountant, it's going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of the year just to have a couple of conversations. And so I think if we can get these business owners in the mindset that you need to consult with professionals just like your clients do, then you're going to be in a better position for your business long run. And a lot of these costs of doing business are your accounting options, your law options, your insurance, all of these things that people do, even down to like what everyone complains about with music licensing. These are all your costs associated with doing your business with professionals, just like your clients are paying you as a professional.
It's this is my pet peeve. I learned a long time ago, and people always ask me like, how'd you learn about business? And it's really simple. Is other people have really good degrees, and if you're not interacting with them, accountant, lawyer, all day long, on speed dial. And
that's just the thing that they're, as an accountant, as a small business owner myself, there are things that I know I'm really good at, and there's things that I know that I'm awful at. And those things that I'm awful at, the first thing I do is get it off of my plate, make sure that I'm not handling it, because I know that if my business is depending on me to do something that I'm not good at, that business is not going to do well. There's going to be a bump in the road at some point. So, when it comes down to it, yeah, a lot of it's cost related. Doesn't make sense for a business at this time. But, at some point you have to kind of make that decision. As far as, on our pricing side, we price based on annual gross revenue. And where we find that that's helpful for clients is that we can bring in a client at a beginning stage before they even open to their gym. We can assist them because we have pricing that's available for them. And I think that a lot of times law firms, sometimes if you're working with someone that's used to being with startups, sometimes you can find scenarios like that too, where people are willing to help you out in the beginning, knowing that as your business grows, they're going to grow with you and they're going to need you even more.
Yeah, that's huge. Just playing the long game. You know that you can start with them now when they're growing, and then when they get big, your revenue grows as long as their revenue grows. So it gives you that incentive to keep working with them, to keep building with them. And that's huge in startup land. Like start low because they're not making enough now, but they're going to grow, and then they're going to depend on you more and use you more. And then you get to grow in that relationship with them in terms of the revenue you make from it.
Yeah. And every successful business you've had to start somewhere. They started at zero at some point. So the
faster they get the help, the better they do.
Yeah, exactly. And when we have a client that's starting just starting out, our fees, we're not making much money off of them. But it's just the fact, again, that Chandler was saying, we're going for that long-term growth. We say, okay, if we can get in at the beginning, we're going to be able to help them out. Might be not making any money to begin with, but we're going to be able to help them out so that when they do grow, when they do open that next location and then the next location and then franchise, whatever it might be, we've been with them from the beginning, and we can really kind of help them with that growth. And that's where we're going to grow too, working with them.
Mike, that's amazing. So if anybody's listening, we usually get like 1 to 2 listeners total. So if anybody out there is listening, and you're a smaller business and you're like, oh, that'd be great if I could have a service like that and to help me understand even the simple stuff, employee versus contractor, right? How to do the books, accounting, and you feel you can't afford it. Mike just gave you a reason to call him because he has something that can help you. And then as you grow, he grows. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So it's been a good episode. If people want to get in contact with you, which obviously they should, because if it's on a sliding revenue scale, you can definitely afford it and you can grow and they're going to help you and you can get all the expert advice rather than asking on the affiliate owners forum what you should do. You can get advice from a real life, living and breathing professional. And so if they want that advice, how can they get a hold of you, Mike?
Yeah, so they can either jump on our website, which is JETROtax.com. We also have a website that's specific for fitness business owners. So if you're on the fitness side, it's JETROfitness.com. And obviously, anyone can hit me up on Facebook, wherever it might be. And I'm more than willing to answer questions, kind of help any kind of client along and see if we can guide them at all.
Good stuff.
Perfect. Maybe we'll add you into our Facebook forum too. So if people have questions in there, we can generate some conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
I like it. So if you guys have your accounting or tax questions, get a hold of Mike. We'll put all the information in the show notes as well and on the podcast. So when you guys listen to this, you can get in contact with him as well. Our biggest listener base is our podcast, and Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. We wanted to really dive deep into the employee versus independent contractor conversation and give the reasons why or why not you should do it, what the gray areas look like, and the implications behind the decisions you make. And that's all she wrote, Dave.
That is all she wrote. This has been a great episode.
Yeah. Had a lot of fun.
I'm glad we did it.
Yeah. Thanks again, Mike. Good. It's been exciting.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Of course. We'll have him on.
Looking forward to. Yeah, we'll have you on again probably every 2-3 months. We'll take a different topic and crush it.
Yeah. If you guys have accounting related questions, ask us and we'll bring Mike back on to answer them.
Cool.
All right. Any last words, Mike?
No, I think just thanks for having me on, and you guys have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too.
All
right. Yeah. See ya.